Coming up on Week in Review, the new Kansas City police chief joins us, and in our reporter roundtable, is it time to take away his credit card? The mayor and his online shopping binge. A Missouri lawmaker with an answer to the NFL anthem protests. Cut off state taxpayer support to the stadiums. McCaskill challenged, and why everyone, it seems, now wants to be the next governor of Kansas.
Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome, I'm Nick Haynes. Our reporter roundtable straight ahead. But first, while investigators still search for a motive in the worst mass killing in recent U.S. history, the tragedy in Las Vegas already changing behavior here. At a gun summit at UBC Monday, which also featured the mother of a child killed at Sandy Hook, the head of security in the Shawnee Mission School District says they're now rethinking all outdoor graduation ceremonies.
If you have graduation outside, like Shawnee Mission does, and you put everybody in a stadium, and you look to the south at the hotel that's about 550 yards away, it would be a doable thing. We will try to determine who's checking into what rooms on those floors, run criminal background checks. We will try to find out if there's office buildings that have accessible stairways to get to the roof. We will do all the things that we have to do to protect those kids and their parents at graduation.
Former Overland Park Police Chief, now head of safety in the Shawnee Mission School District, John Douglas. By the way, you can see more video coverage from that gun summit on our schools page, takenote.kcpt.org. Joining me now in the studio is the Chief of Police in Kansas City, Missouri, Rick Smith. If they are making that type of change in the Shawnee Mission School District, I can only hazard to guess what's happening on the Kansas City, Missouri side. Are there organizations rethinking events, festivals, concerts in Kansas City, Missouri as a result of Las Vegas?
Well, actually, this started before Las Vegas. We started with the incidents that were occurring in Europe with the vehicle attacks, and we have restructured some of our events, not the events themselves, but the planning around those events to make sure the police department is part of those events and safety becomes a priority at each event.
But you had a very specific view there from John Douglas in the Shawnee Mission School District, really about graduation ceremonies. Is there any events that are not going to take place or going to be completely changed as a result of the Las Vegas shootings?
Not that I've been aware of at this time, been made aware of at this time. But let's talk about like Plaza Lighting. It's an event we have in the city every year. I mean, we are already starting that planning stage from a security standpoint, so that and we've done this in years past. It doesn't happen out in public, but the public should have confidence in knowing we're engaged from the very beginning, working with our partners to make sure we have safe events across the city.
That same weekend, 5 people are shot, 3 shot dead in downtown Lawrence on the popular Massachusetts Street. Has that reignited a debate here in Kansas City over Westport, where there has been concern about privatizing Westport streets so it allows for a ban on guns, so you could have metal detectors put in place to prevent guns from going into that entertainment district?
Yeah, that discussion was going on. I'm sure it spurs renewed discussion about it. But the point being is Westport is saying we have gun laws in the state of Missouri that they don't see it as an advantage to their business model in Westport, that the open carry is a detriment to their having a safe and entertainment environment in Westport. So what they're saying is, what can we do to change that to make our environment safe? And they've come up with this plan about the privatization of the streets.
But are you involved in that discussion?
Well, when I was the commander at Center Zone, we were in the early discussions about it, and we were pretty neutral on the thing in the very beginning about whether to do the streetification or not. So when other things have happened. I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, we had a shooting where there was 2 officers not within 20 feet of gunshots and a suspect shooting 2 people in Westport, right at Westport and Penn. I mean, when those kinds of things happen, you have to look at something different. We have to change something to work on safety.
Now, Kansas City borders the city of Raytown, where some community members, by the way, are panicking this week over a loss of police protection after huge budget cuts forced the elimination of 30 police jobs, including 17 patrol officers. Has the Kansas City Police Department been asked to help, or have you got enough issues of your own to deal with, Chief?
We haven't been asked to help with the safety. Of course, we would. If we got a request from someone that said, hey, we just don't have the manpower, can you help look at this? We'd do everything we could to try and help them. It's unfortunate what's happening in Raytown. You know, there's a lot of dedicated police officers there are, you know, hurting because of the job elimination.
You are on the job now, actually 2 months this weekend. You said when you came into office that my goal is to get Kansas City off the 10 most violent crime list. When you came in on August 15th, the murder rate was at 89. We had 89 murders. Today it's at 113. What is the biggest thing that you have done to help reduce the number of murders in Kansas City?
I'm trying to put the emphasis back on patrol. I'm trying to put the officers who make those initial contacts, have the initial intelligence. We need to make sure as a department we're following and supporting those efforts in the field.
Everyone has a view when they come into a job of what they want to achieve, and it's sometimes more difficult than they think. What has been the biggest change for you, or the biggest thing you weren't expecting from going from a major in the police department to actually being the top dog, the chief of this department?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that has surprised me is the amount of asks I have to appear at places. 29 years on a department, I was never asked to be on a show like this or on other media events. So I'm getting a lot of requests, which I thought, I'm honored that people want to hear from me. I'm just not, I didn't expect that much request when I got in office.
And what are the issues? Because we came from an African-American police chief for a long time in Kansas City, Missouri, and then we make a change, and there's always going to be concerns in the community. Sure. How do you address those concerns? Or how are you dealing with the African-American community?
Well, as I said to the board, when you hire me as a major, you're going to hire me to be chief from a major. I said, you're going to hire me based on my performance as a major, right? As being a division commander in 2 of our inner core stations, Center Zone and East Zone, and how I worked with the community all those years. I said, I want to stand on what I've done in the past, and that's what I'm trying to bring as the chief of police. Not change anything. I want to continue the work I've done at one geographical area and spread it throughout the city. So I continue to reach out just like I did. I was very much a participant with communities when they worked on issues. You know, I made our services available to the neighborhoods to make sure they were getting the services they thought they needed to make strong neighborhoods.
Rick Smith leads the Kansas City Police Department. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Our Reporter Roundtable is next. You're watching Kansas City Week in Review. Now to dissect the week's headlines, an all-star panel of journalists, the head of the Kansas City Star editorial board, Colleen Nelson, and business development and politics reporter Steve Vockrodt, Star political correspondent Brian Lowry, and columnist and Star editorial writer Dave Helling. Next week is the deadline for cities to convince internet shopping giant Amazon to build their second headquarters in their community. Amazon is promising to invest billions of dollars and create 50,000 jobs in what some are calling one of the largest economic development deals of the century.
Oh boy, pretty cool.
This week, Kansas City Mayor Sly James tries to separate our metro from the intense competition by buying 1,000 Amazon products and reviewing them online with pithy, witty references to how the items say something about KC. With every city in the country somehow trying to attract Amazon's attention, any word on how this has been received, Steve Vockrodt?
No, not really. I mean, it's a publicity stunt. There's a few other cities that have tried publicity stunts, and that's not how Amazon's going to...
Can you refresh our memories as to why they want to even have a second headquarters, though, for Amazon?
Yeah, they're about maxed out in where they are in Seattle. They've got about 50,000 people there. They account for 20% of the office occupancy in the city of Seattle. There's also some other issues in Seattle. I think there's some tension between Amazon in that city. Seattle's talked about a wealth tax, which I think hasn't played well with Amazon, a few other things. And so, you know, they've got some employees to add. They're a company on the rise, and you know, they're looking for another place to put 50,000 people. Any city pretty much with 1 million people at least is probably going to put in some kind of bid for this thing.
Are we any of the wiser, though, even though we see all of this and the mayor making fun of the Amazon reviews, etc., but are we any of the wiser about the deal that Kansas City is offering Amazon, or where this would actually be built in Kansas City, Dave?
No, there are some suggestions of locations, but in terms of what economic package the area has assembled to offer to the company, there's been pretty much a lid on that news here and in other parts of the country. We've been a little critical of that. If you're handing out millions in tax breaks, the public ought to know about it, we think. The people assembling those incentives have said that they've signed certain agreements to not disclose it. But the city has said early on, Nick, that if it gets into a bidding war with other communities, we can't really compete. We just don't have those kinds of incentives that would provide the kind of money that a larger metropolitan area could. And for that reason, you see stunts like this. Maybe there's an idea that if we just raise our public profile, that we won't have to write as big of a check on the other side.
Right, but that was something that was done more for the benefit of Kansas City residents to see that we're trying, as opposed to Amazon's not going to base it on these 5-star reviews. They're going to base it on what city gives them the best tax incentives, what city has the resources they want, like a skilled workforce. They're going to base it on actual economic factors rather than pithy reviews on their website.
Ahmed on our KCPT Facebook page this week asking, will any of these jobs go to East Kansas City where they're needed most? Could the headquarters be built on the east side of Kansas City where that investment would have a more profound impact, Colleen?
Well, that's a great question, and to Dave's point, they're being kind of secretive about this. And I mean, sources tell us that they're looking at multiple locations, and so it's possible that Kansas City could put forth a bid with several different options. We've heard about a location in South Kansas City. We've heard about some other possibilities, and so it's not entirely clear where this would go. And other cities have been very upfront about saying, here's exactly where we'd put you, here's what we're offering you, and so there are different strategies in play here, and we'll see if the Kansas City kind of like quiet behind closed door strategy works for them. But other cities have said, here's our package. Philadelphia said, we'll completely overhaul our tax structure for you. I mean, that's far more appealing to Amazon than here. I wrote a review for baby oil and Fiber One cereal, which Sly James did.
But this must have cost, this is 1,000 items. This has cost between probably $10,000, $15,000. Was that taxpayer money? Was that the mayor writing his own check for those items, Steve?
I haven't even verified whether he actually bought 1,000 items. Who knows?
Okay, and so we don't even know if he actually bought the items?
You'd have to ask him.
Okay. Some people are also concerned, is this a big distraction doing 1,000 reviews from other issues that should be on his plate, including KCI Airport? There was a story in the Star this week also that they may be struggling, and the mayor conceding himself they don't have enough money to actually run TV ads at this point, even though the airport vote is taking place less than a month from now, Colleen.
Right, and I mean, as you know, the clock is ticking, time is running out, and we've reported this week that Edgemore, which is the company that has been selected to develop and build the new airport terminal, hasn't contributed to the campaign. They say they want to work out an agreement before they contribute to the campaign, and 3.5 weeks away, they don't have enough money to go on TV. We haven't seen much of the campaign. That may be an intentional strategy. They may think a low turnout election is good for them to get this passed, but Sly James's comments that they don't have enough money to go on TV kind of undercuts that theory.
Now on KMBZ radio this week, though, Dave Helling, the mayor said, "Oh, we have it all under control, though. There's nothing to worry about." Do they have it under control?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it depends on what happens on November 7th. I do think that the airport issue is far more concrete and immediate, obviously, than the Amazon proposal, which will take months, maybe years to flesh out, and remains, in Kansas City, a 1% chance of reality anyway. I mean, if it happens, it will be a miracle in some ways. The airport is very different, Nick. It's happening now. We're about 3.5 weeks, I think, away from Election Day. If it fails, if it comes close but fails, some people may look back to this interregnum and suggest that maybe the mayor should have focused on the airport more than Amazon.
It seems every other day now someone looks in the mirror and sees the next governor of Kansas looking back at them. And are there 1,000 candidates wanting to succeed Sam Brownback as the #1 leader in the Sunflower State?
And I'm my own man, and that's what I do. I listen to people.
Chris Kobach has always run toward the problem, never away from it.
The only thing missing is a bold leader who will impel the charge forward.
Because I believe we can do better in our state.
I'm Carl Brewer, and I'm running to become the next governor of Kansas.
The journey to reclaim the state begins today.
Second high schooler to join the race for Kansas governor.
Now there are actually 4 teams running for governor. Just though, as it seems, the race couldn't get any more crowded, it's reported this week that Greg Orman, yes, the independent candidate who came close to unseating veteran Kansas Senator Pat Roberts, is also now preparing for a run for governor as an independent again. If the Johnson County businessman were to enter the race, political observers this week claiming it will only hurt Democrats and hand the governor's race to the Republicans. Why, Brian Lowry?
Well, first, let's just talk about this race being this crowded. It helps the candidates who are well known. And so when you look at the Republican primary, with all of these people getting in, between the two parties, we are basically about 20 people now in, 4 of them teenagers, none of them women. One, Carl Brewer, a Democrat, would be the first African-American governor of Kansas. But when you look at that, in all of the parties, it helps the people with name recognition. So Chris Kobach, Jeff Colyer right now probably stand the best chance of making their way through the Republican primary. And those are going to be divisive figures. Chris Kobach, very closely associated with Trump, a lot of controversy. Jeff Colyer, very associated with Sam Brownback, who doesn't have the highest approval ratings these days. And so the Democrats really see 2018 as their opportunity to take back control in Topeka. But that really is complicated if you have an independent in the race. If you look at who voted for Orman in 2014, it lined up very closely with who voted for Democrat Paul Davis in 2014.
Because there wasn't a strong Democratic candidate in that race, though.
There wasn't any Democrat.
Exactly, the Democrats dropped out.
Because we see at the national level with the NFL protests, for instance, independent candidates are actually cutting more towards supporting the president on that issue, not towards a more liberal position. So why should we think independents in Kansas in this type of race would support a Democratic point of view?
Well, I mean, it's the specific independent, and it's Greg Orman, and he ran before in a race where the Democrat dropped out, and so he got 42% of the vote because there was no Democrat in the race, and so he's not an independent who's a libertarian or running to the right. He's an independent who is going to take away Democratic votes and potentially moderate Republican votes who might be inclined to support a Democrat in some scenarios, and so. I mean, every Democrat I talk to is pulling their hair out at the news that Greg Orman might jump in the race and saying, please, no, don't mess this up for us.
And Orman candidacy is based on the idea of centrism. It's very much aimed at those moderate Republican voters who ultimately decide elections in Kansas, right? Where if you get the Democrats, they're going to support the Democratic candidate. You have a lot of conservative Republicans who will back a Kobach or back a Colyer. It's going to be up to moderate Republicans to decide this election. And that's a lot tougher for the Democratic candidate to make that case if you have someone like Greg Orman in the race.
Dave.
But if the Republicans, for example, nominate a moderate Republican, it isn't Kobach or even Jeff Colyer, say it's Ed O'Malley, then there's a chance that Orman might draw some votes from the more moderate Republican and complicate things for both parties. But Colleen is exactly right. If Democrats had their druthers, they want a clean race, a clean shot at whoever the Republican nominee is. They think they have a real chance, given the Brownback legacy, to take this seat, and they need as clean as a shot as they can get.
So how do you differentiate yourself when there are tons of candidates running in a race? Well, you set yourself up as the most interesting man in the world, at least the most interesting man in Kansas.
He loves to play chess, blindfolded. When he walks by, statues stare at him on political correctness. On opening our borders.
That's not a good idea.
On shrinking our military.
Unless you want to lose your country, you should reconsider.
He's the most interesting man in Kansas.
Oh, Steve, that's just too much.
Alrighty, just a segment from the ad for Steve Fitzgerald, one of the Republican candidates now running to succeed Kansas Congresswoman Lynn Jenkins from Topeka, who's announced she's not seeking re-election. Brian, how's it working for him?
That's an interesting race because you have multiple members of the Kansas legislature running as Republicans. You have, in addition to Steve Fitzgerald, you have Representative Kevin Jones, you have Senator Karen Tyson. Fitzgerald is a candidate that very much would appeal to cultural conservatives. I can say for a fact he is interesting. He is the only member of the Kansas legislature who has ever talked to me about Satanism and warned about Satanists taking over Christian clubs at KU. Fitzgerald, I mean, I think those ads got him some attention. One thing that we should say about that race is Paul Davis is right now the Democratic frontrunner. The Democrats see that as a race that they can actually compete in. You're going to see some national money go into that race, so it's incumbent upon Republicans to really find a strong candidate who can compete with Davis, who won that district in the 2014
But it's been
election.
quite some time since a Democrat won that race, though, Colleen Nielsen.
That's right, but it's an interesting moment, as Brian notes. And so, I mean, the National Democrats have identified this as one of a handful of districts around the country that they want to target to try to take back the House. And so, I mean, you're going to have national money coming in, and Paul Davis, at this point, has a lot of money. He's off to a quick fundraising start, so, I mean, he comes in with some advantages.
It's the only congressional race in Kansas where right now the Democratic candidate is better known than any of the Republican candidates.
Okay, well, let's move on to Missouri, where we do have a well-known Democrat. After months of speculation, Missouri United States Senator Claire McCaskill finally has drawn a well-financed, politically connected challenger with name recognition in the Show Me State.
Senator McCaskill, she's been in D.C. forever. She's turned her back on farmers. She's ignored working families. She's been wrong on every Supreme Court nominee for the last 11 years. She doesn't represent us.
Missouri Republican Attorney General Josh Hawley officially announcing he's taking on McCaskill, a Democrat who served in the Senate for the past 11 years. McCaskill was holding town hall meetings this week and stayed focused on her job. But behind the scenes, is this an alarming development for the McCaskill campaign?
Well, sure. Josh Hawley will be, first of all, he's won statewide rather comfortably. I think he was ahead of Trump in Missouri, or close to Trump. So he's very popular in the state, or at least was in the last election. There will be money backing him, of course. He's young, he's well-spoken. He is not Todd Akin, which was the nominee, as we know, back in 2012. I think one of the things we have to keep a close eye on, Nick, is the outside money in this race. It'll easily top $100 million if the Senate is considered in play in 2018. And you know, Missourians are going to be bombarded by those dark money ads that are now ubiquitous in other parts of the country.
It was interesting when Claire McCaskill did talk about this race. She talked about Josh Hawley being Mitch McConnell's candidate. Mitch McConnell, no mention of Donald Trump. So actually, she thought it was much more of a negative to have Mitch McConnell be connected to Josh Hawley than Donald Trump.
Right. Well, and I think she probably is still holding out some hope that perhaps there could be a Republican challenger to the right. And if she emphasizes to the Republican Party that Josh Hawley is a Mitch McConnell Republican, she's still holding out hope that Steve Bannon, Trump's guy, swoops in and says, here's a candidate who's to the right. And so she's kind of hoping for another Todd Akin scenario and to end up with an opponent who's not as prepared as Josh Hawley.
But as we've reported in the Star, Josh Hawley's been talking to Steve Bannon.
Yes.
And Breitbart has all of a sudden started to write very nice things about Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley was also recruited by Jack Danforth, the man who called on Republicans to cut ties with Trump. The tough thing for Josh Hawley is, can he actually be all things to all people? Can he be both the candidate for Jack Danforth Republicans and Steve Bannon Republicans? But it's telling that McCaskill, even when I tried to ask her about, at the town hall the other day, about Hawley reaching out to Steve Bannon, I think we can agree is a divisive figure. She pivoted right back to Mitch McConnell. They've clearly done research where they think tying Josh Hawley to the establishment Republicans is the way to win.
Another Republican candidate, Austin Peterson, also running in this race, and in the last funding report, he's getting some traction too. A Missouri lawmaker now has an answer for NFL players protesting the national anthem. Cut off state taxpayer support for the stadiums. Kirksville Republican Nate Walker says when Missouri first conceived the idea of publicly funding stadiums, nobody thought the league would put political protest ahead of good business and civic responsibility. So how much money do the stadiums actually get now from tax dollars, Dave Helling?
You get $3 million each year for the Truman Sports Complex, roughly $1.5 million for the football stadium and $1.5 million for the Royals. That's in some jeopardy regardless of this protest because state lawmakers are a little worried about that. The bigger issue is St. Louis, where the state kicks in about $12 million a year for a stadium that's empty.
So how would this work? That they would just eliminate all of the tax money that goes to the stadiums, Brian?
You know, right now I don't know whether or not we'll see this have legs. You know, it's going to be incumbent upon Chiefs fans, I guess, if they want to ensure they keep getting this money to lobby Jefferson City.
The last year, the artists and athletes tax in Missouri, which is levied on visitors and out-of-state athletes mostly, generated $39 million by itself for the state of Missouri. So professional sports are probably a net positive in the state, and I'm sure lawmakers will tell them that. The bigger issue is deductibility of federal deductibility of local bonds for stadiums, and that could
But it's not just this individual lawmaker from Kirksville. The governor of Missouri has also not been a huge fan of supporting sports stadiums with tax dollars either.
Right, that's right, and there is a legitimate conversation to have about how much do we want to subsidize billionaire sports owners? How many millions of dollars should taxpayers be putting into professional sports? But I think it's a dangerous precedent to set to say we're going to do this to punish protesting players. The government is going to take away this funding because they don't like the speech.
Why is that a precedent, do you think? What else would happen if they did that?
Well, it's a slippery slope. I mean, we don't know what comes next, but if they are able to do that, then they're saying, if we don't like your speech, we're going to take away your money. And I think that could have a chilling effect on other entities.
Public broadcasting might be at risk.
Oh, now, okay, finally.
Now
I didn't care before. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I now care. That is our Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from The Star, Colleen Nelson and Steve Vockrott and Brian Lowry and Dave Helling. I'm Nick Haynes from all of us at KCPT. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.